Hey, LawNext listeners. This is Bob Ambrogi, and we have a special episode for you today. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the founding of the legal research company Fastcase. During the recent annual conference of the American Association of Law Libraries, I sat down with the founders, Ed Walters and Phil Rosenthal, for an in-depth and often frank conversation about how two young law firm associates quit their day jobs to start and grow what has become one of the leading companies in the field. I recorded this in association with the good folks at the Legal Talk Network, so a big thanks to them for collaborating on this. We'll get to today's interview in just a moment, but first, let's hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, on to this week's interview. Hello, and welcome to another edition of On the Road with Legal Talk Network. This is Bob Ambrogi, and I am the host for today's show, which is being recorded on location at the American Association of Law Libraries annual meeting and conference in Washington, D.C. We are right here on the exhibit floor, so if you hear a little background noise, that is why. And I am really happy today to be having an opportunity to talk to the founders of Fastcase on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of Fastcase, of the founding of Fastcase. Now I feel old, but I felt old already, but now I feel even older.
Us too.
And so I have here Ed Walters, the CEO. Say hi, Ed.
Hello.
And Phil Rosenthal, the president of
Hello.
Fastcase. And I've got a lot of stuff I want to ask you about Fastcase, but I have to take a little bit of it aside and say that before either of you were lawyers, before either of you founded Fastcase, you both did some really interesting things in your lives before that. So just real quick, Ed, tell us what you did before you were a lawyer.
Like a million times growing up in Louisiana, I almost blew myself up with fireworks and car chases.
Not bad.
I moved to Washington to go to college and really, truly fluked my way into a job working in the White House as a summer intern and then in the Office of Presidential Speechwriting, where at 21, I was just bounding up the steps every day. It was like the coolest, luckiest, awesomest experience.
So you were a speechwriter for George H.W. Bush.
Yeah,
right?
I was one of two Democrats politically appointed to the George Herbert Walker Bush administration. The other was Bobby Strauss, the founder of Aiken Gump, who was the ambassador to Russia. I was not exactly the ambassador to Russia. I was like the lowest ranking, most junior person in the Bush administration. But luckily at 21, I still thought that I knew it all. I got in a ton of awesome arguments and fights. One of my favorite days working at the White House as a political centrist Democrat working in that administration was hiding under my desk when the White House Chief of Staff, John Sununu, came storming down the halls of the old executive office building with a copy of a speech that I had edited his edit out of, yelling, "Who is Ed Walters and what is his agenda?"
A lot of people are still asking that question,
Yes.
Ed, but they tend to work at other companies now. And Phil, you just real quick, you had a whole life before you became a lawyer?
Yeah, I started out in physics actually, and ended up doing string theory and cosmology out at Caltech, trying to figure out why the universe is four-dimensional, like most pre-law activities, and then fell in love with space actually, and so I was also involved at JPL in the early stages of the mission that went to Pluto a couple of years ago.
So you
Now
were
New Horizons, then Fire and Ice, the Pluto Fast Flyby.
Pluto Fast Flyby in the beginning. This was around 1991.
Yeah. So you were quite literally a rocket scientist, and which makes me want to ask: is legal research rocket science?
It's harder in a lot of ways. It's not as clean.
Yeah.
It's less Euclidean.
Physics has nice, clear answers.
Yeah. So the two of you were associates at Covington and Burling here in Washington, D.C. The day comes when you decide you're going to quit your day job and go off and start a legal research company. Had you just been working sleepless nights on a big M&A deal and lost your minds, or what? I mean, what prompted you
we
to
probably
think?
did lose our minds, but it turned out Ed and I serendipitously just happened to share the same suite at Covington and Burling. I walk in late one night. This is early '99. And there's Ed fuming over the printer. And I thought, Ed, did the printer jam? Everything okay? It turns out the printer's fine, but he's doing research for a Fortune 5 client that had said back in early '99, don't use West or Lexus, find something else. And we realized there really wasn't much of anything else and started talking about it and just how incredibly expensive legal research was and how hard it was. And we had this crazy idea that lawyers should be able to afford access to the law, and really everyone should have access to the law, and that was the genesis of thinking about the company.
I mean, did it strike you at all as audacious? I mean, neither of you had a background in, I don't think, in starting a company or in, especially a legal research company, right?
Yeah, I think we had a healthy appreciation for how hard it would be, but I think we also had this conviction that in a web-enabled world, which was brand new in 1999, you really couldn't maintain a duopoly in public domain, public law. There would have to be some big alternative. And our conceit about it really was that if you took the editorial part out, the headnotes or the annotations, and really published nothing more than the public law with brilliant, awesome tools, the citation analysis tools, data visualization tools, that you could do it pennies on the dollars of the cost, but really pick up like 95% of the utility of legal research. And so I think we knew that we were onto a good idea. Just in the macro, there was going to be a big gate crasher. Somebody was going to break up that duopoly, and there's no reason why that couldn't be us.
Yeah, I mean, there were some others who had come along, but I don't know that there were others that had sort of your idea about, I mean, you've talked a lot over the years, I've talked to you a lot over the years about sort of democratizing the law.
Right.
And that was a kind of a unique approach at that point, I think.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the approach in 1999 of legal publishers, who I think viewed the law as the product.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the approach in 1999 was, if you want access to Supreme Court opinions, like that is the product.
Yeah.
And Phil and I always said, democratizing the law was important. And a byproduct of that, or an important feature of that, was that the law itself wasn't the product, right? The law is kind of a raw material that everyone should have access to. And what we were selling was, brilliant tools that empowered people to do better research, that allowed people to create smarter legal research. The tools, not the data. And even today, you see companies that are trying to paywall off public law and trying to maintain an exclusive stranglehold on access to the law, where we've always said that the real product should be innovative tools that sit on top of the law, and the law should be available to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that night and the next, we spent hours just starting to think of ideas on how could we make legal research smarter, and why is it as hard as it is, and just started making lists of all the things we wanted to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. I mean, how did you literally go about getting this started? I mean, what did you, after you left your firm, what did you do? How did you get the raw material to work with? How did you? When did you start hiring people?
Some of it we did before we left the firm. Phil, you have to tell the story about how one night he comes running frantically into my office. You got to tell the story.
Yeah. So I went and I discovered that the library at Covington and Burling was going to throw out a set of the reporters, which would eventually became a very common thing for libraries to do, of course. And so I run in.
So for maybe 6 months, Phil and I are cooking this idea while we're working. So we're spending nights and weekends trying to do a prototype of Fastcase, trying to create the business model and the idea, but we're still working full-time as lawyers, right? And so during this time, Phil comes running into my office.
Yeah, and it's like they're throwing out the reporters. We have a chance to get all these thousands and thousands of reporters, and of course, no one at the firm knows we're leaving.
And I say, Phil, that's preposterous. I mean, of course, they're not throwing away the national reporter system. And he said, "No, they are. Come quickly."
Yeah, and so we run to the library to tell them, don't give us the weekend. Don't throw them out. We'll take them. And they're like, what are you? Thousands? A book? What are you going to do with them? Oh, we just like books. We're taking them.
And they were literally they had an industrial dumpster They're wheeling through the library, like pulling with both hands off of shelves on both sides, like a single copy of the entire National Reporter system.
Yeah.
All the regional reporters, all the federal reporters, into a dumpster, the size of a box truck.
So you thought you were going to go home and put them in your garage and slice the pages and scan them, or what was?
We knew we'd have to convert them to get the data.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest challenges is how do you get the data? It's public domain.
Yeah.
But to get a good electronic copy is so hard. So step one, books, we thought.
On this particular Friday, the hardest part was convincing the firm to let us have them. So I'm sorry, I keep interrupting your story, but go ahead.
No, it's fine. And so finally the library is bewildered, but they're like, well, fine. If you can get them out by Monday, they're yours. So we run and rent a U-Haul and a storage unit, and we spend the weekend carting books, which any good associate should do for the...
Not just books, like 3,000 books, right? Like a giant collection of books.
Were anybody looking askance at you as you did this? Or
Not just anybody. There was this classic moment where I'm wheeling one of those library book carts down the hallway towards the freight elevator, and I run into the managing partner of the firm. And it's the only time I ever saw him with a deer in the headlights moment. He didn't say a word. He's like, why are these associates wheeling books? But he probably did many Supreme Court arguments, but had nothing to say to that.
I should say the two librarians at the time at Covington and Burling were quite famous then and more famous now, Roberta Schaefer and David Mao, each of whom did a turn as the law librarian of Congress. They said, Ed, Phil, you can have the books, but what are you going to do with 4,000 books? Do you have any idea what this entails? And why on earth do you want them? Yeah. And we weren't ready to announce yet. So we said, we're bibliophiles?
Yeah.
And they, of course, didn't believe us at all. They said, just take them. Get them out of here by Monday.
Yeah.
But when it came time to tell the firm...
They make great bonfires for the holidays.
We told our law librarians first. So it was Roberta and David were the first people we told that we were leaving and what we were doing.
Roberta was our first advisor.
Yeah.
And first person we told, and of course she gave amazing advice. So.
Yeah. So when did you become a company? When did you hire people? How did that all start?
Well, it started with the name. And Fastcase was not the original name for the company. So Phil and I had built a prototype while we were at our law firm. And we had one of our first meetings with an outside investor. And so we needed to move this prototype off of a laptop and onto the web. And part of that is having a domain name. And I think we realized the name would be important. Whatever domain name we picked would be the name of the company and would likely be our forever name. And so we spent hours. I mean, even in 1999, a lot of the good domain names were taken.
So we're looking everywhere.
Yeah, we're looking at e-law library, it's hours we're trying to find something. And finally, we come across a really good name. I think we both really liked it. Phil and I are different people. We have very different tastes. So finding a name that we both liked was not trivial. And so we thought this was a big decision and said, look, let's just sleep on it. All right? Yeah. Let's not make a rash impulse buy. We'll sleep on it. We'll buy the domain in the morning before our presentation that afternoon. So it was a pretty short night. I think I slept 3 hours. I got back into the office the next morning, and I saw Phil, and I said, hey, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this. It's time to buy the domain name, but I'm so tired I kind of forgot what it was. So what was it, and I'll buy it. And Phil said, well, you remembered what it was. I can't remember what the good name was. And we racked our brains and we couldn't remember what the name, we'd gone through so many domain names the night before. And so we said, well, look, let's just park it somewhere. Let's get a placeholder domain name. We'll park it on the placeholder domain name. We'll show it to these outside investors. And then when we remember what the good name is, we'll move it back to that one. So we're searching really quickly to try to find a name. Fast Law, no. E-Law, no. Fast Law Library, no. Fastcase, yes. Oh, Fastcase. All right, we'll just park it on Fastcase, and when we remember what the good name is, we'll move it back to that one.
So still our interim name.
So did you ever remember what the...
No, we have no idea.
We can't remember what the good name is.
It's still out there waiting to be taken.
Maybe on our 40th anniversary, we'll switch it to the other.
Yeah.
Wait, here's my epilogue to this story. Yeah. So that afternoon, we moved everything to the Fastcase domain. That afternoon, I thought it would be interesting to look at the archive.org Wayback Machine to see if Fastcase had ever been anything before. It turns out that a German open source publishing company had the domain name fastcase.com, and it had expired the night before.
Wow.
And so
What a
they went to
coincidence.
bed with Fastcase on their website, woke up the next morning with our stuff on their website.
Wow.
And so we thought for a while, we were going to get sued by a German open source software company, but they moved it somewhere else.
Wow. I mean, you still had to be a little bit nervous about this whole undertaking starting out. When was the point that you started to feel like, yeah, maybe we've got something here, that we've got some traction?
Well, we
always
have different points.
Yeah, we always believed in it, but I think that the traction really came when we found the bar market, which were these partners that shared our mission,
Yeah.
and we started to win state bars and local bars as partners. And then we said, okay, now this is really working. We believed in it long before that.
Yeah.
but
But that's
it's
really
all-
been important to your growth, right? That bar market. How did you start? How did that happen? How did you start to discover that market, or did they discover you?
Probably a little of each, but I think, just when we were a regular retail company, which we still do, we would go to the state bar annual meetings to just market and then realize, we could do more than just sell individual subscriptions here and there. Why not really have an impact by making sure that every lawyer in the state has legal research? And so we started talking to the bars about that, and they've been wonderful partners.
Yeah.
It's kind of a natural, right? I mean, if the idea is to democratize the law, making sure that every lawyer in a state has access to it as a part of their license really helps to advance the cause of justice. It means that people don't win or lose cases because they don't have access to the full law library. And so it was a great fit with our mission. Bar associations have a wonderful answer to the question, what do I get when I pay you these $250 in dues? The answer is, you get a legal research service that would cost you $1,145 a year.
That's a great answer.
And you get it for free.
Yeah.
The bar associations pay us, and they pay us well enough to do this at a very high level and continue to innovate, which is great. And then we, of course, get to really fulfill our mission to democratize the law.
Yeah.
900,000 lawyers have Fastcase for free through their state bar association.
Yeah. We'll get back to my interview in just a moment, but first, let's take a break to hear from the sponsors who generously support LawNext. And now, let's continue this week's interview. We're here at the American Association of Law Libraries. What has been the role of law librarians in your company over the last 20 years? I mean, how was it a tough sell to get them to think about you, to start to have a relationship with you?
I have to talk about really the law librarians have been the key to our success, that because we knew they were the experts at legal research.
Yeah.
And so right from the beginning, right, starting with Roberta Schaefer, they were always the ones who told us how to do it right. And in fact, the first time we went to a AALL was Minnesota, I think, in 2001. And I ran around there with little business cards that said, register for our beta testing program. And we didn't even have anything to beta test yet. And so we were just trying to get as many law librarians involved so they could tell us how they always dreamed it would be. And so they've been such a key to our success. And that's why we always consider this our home.
Yeah. So did they get it, or was there pushback?
They got it instantly. They were waiting for this. They were dreaming that someone would come along and give them more control and create the features they always wanted, and basically so they saw this as an opportunity to work with someone, to partner with someone, to really get legal research to be the way they wanted it.
Yeah.
I'll give you one good example of why law librarians are such a good fit with us and such a natural ally. So for the last maybe 6 or 7 years, the kind of incumbent legal research publishers have been on a mission to make their services more Google-like. And I think we at Fastcase have been saying there's a really good legal research that's already Google-like. It's called Google Scholar. We don't need to be more Google-like. We should be less Google-like. We should empower better research. We should make people smarter in the way they're able to do their research. That doesn't mean more complicated. It can be really easy to use, but the tools should be more powerful, more precise. And this is the mission of law librarians for years. They've always been trying to empower their colleagues, other people in the library, the lawyers at the firm, to do better research, to do smarter research, not to dumb down the process.
Right.
And it's just a very shared mission that we have. I think they've always gotten it.
Yeah.
And we really want to empower the law librarians more, who should be leading the way in anything having to do with data or knowledge, and they really are. And so we're, especially as we move into data-driven law and beyond just our core flagship of Fastcase, things like docket alarm, we are trying to give the librarians control to build the tools, to build their own analytics, to build tools that go beyond legal research, because we really know that the law librarians here are the experts in all of these areas, and if you just help them do more of this, they can take the lead and really do amazing things.
Yeah. So over the 20 years, was there anything that the two of you disagreed on vehemently in terms of how the direction or course of the company?
Anything we didn't?
Phil and I always say that if we ever agree on something, it's almost a guarantee that we're wrong.
Well, somebody's got to be right in that disagreement, though, right? How do you figure that out?
I'll give you one that on our wonderful apps, Ed saw right away
the first version of the mobile app.
Yeah.
You're still on the first. You're not on the first version.
Right.
Let's market it fully.
Yeah. All right.
The very first legal research app for iOS, the very first legal research app for iPad, the very first legal research app for Android. Pardon my branding.
Yep.
Right.
And Ed stayed true to our mission of make it free, make it a something to democratize the law.
Yeah.
I had this brief flirtation with should we charge if we, but Ed was completely right on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a huge fight.
Which one were you right on that Ed gave in?
Oh, I don't know. I hope this one. I don't know.
Phil is right all the time. Let me say one thing about this. So, I consider myself so lucky. After 20 years of working with Phil, right? We've disagreed like a million times. I mean, a million people I could have started this company with, 999,999 of them would have argued for the wrong thing, would have had their compass not point true north, would have quit out of frustration, would have given up because it's such a hard thing to do. And Phil, for all of our disagreements all over the years, I just never doubt that his compass points true north.
Yeah.
As a co-founder and as a friend, like we have gone through so much together, and I just feel so lucky to have started this company with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. There's no one else I could have or would have done this company with, and to think, what we've gone through together, and here we are, 2 decades later. That doesn't happen, right? I mean, there's supposed to be movies made about things like this, where there's battles and you're fighting each other and all this horrible stuff.
Right.
And we're doing great and getting closer, and just have this amazing partnership.
That is great.
That is so rare in the startup world, and so we're both blessed.
Yeah.
I would flag one more thing too. One thing that really allows us to have the liberty to be wrong is we work with an awesome, spectacular team.
Yeah.
I think it's always been like a really good crew of people working around us. But there's really something extraordinary going on at Fastcase right now. At about our 20th anniversary, there is an amazing crew of professionals around us.
Not just amazing, but a bigger and bigger crew. I mean, we were just talking before we started recording on, it wasn't all that long ago that it was pretty much you and Phil running, well, you're still running the show, but I mean, not just running the show, but cleaning the dishes and whatever else.
Right. We still do a fair amount of dish
Still can happen.
Yes, but I mean, I will say there's 120 people who work at Fastcase now.
Yeah.
And it is the smartest, kindest, just best group of people you could possibly work with. And I don't mean this as a platitude. I mean, we really have recruited and cultivated a culture of excellence.
Yeah.
Really great people around Phil and me. And I would say of all the things we're proud of, I think this team is something that we're very, very proud of right now.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we're known in the outside world, I'm sure, for our software, our data. The team outshines it all. I mean, and this is the dream team that we have now, that we've waited for, and there's so much happening now. This is really, I always wanted to start a company. This is the moment where it's just so exciting, and top to bottom, we love everybody we got, and they're wonderful, and it's the culture's just, we're really fortunate.
That's great. I want to, and I keep looking over at our producer to see how much time we have here, because I know we're already going longer, and I want to talk more about where you are now. But one thing I want to ask is just looking back over the 20 years from 1999 to today, what was the kind of top one or two milestones in your mind? I mean, what were the things that really stand out as for the development of the company?
In a way, there's so many. I mean, certainly, I think both in the bar market and here, and working with the law schools and the large firms and all the folks at AALL, seeing the folks love what we're doing. I think these were big moments. I think as we now 3/4 of all lawyers have us in through the Bar Association partnerships, and that has meant so much to us and been such a big moment as we've seen that build. I don't know if it's a moment. Do you have
I mean, over 20 years, there are lots of moments. Phil mentioned the launch of our iPhone and iPad app. That was really great for us. I mean, it was a place where we really got to be pioneers. I think back.
And that was recognized. I mean, remember the ABA tech survey several years in a row. That was lawyers' favorite app.
Even today, the 2019 survey, right?
That was
the most popular.
That was so gratifying.
Smartphone app for lawyers, not just for legal research. It's Fastcase.
Winning the AALL New Product of the Year award twice, once with Hein, and that has meant so much. To get the recognition from the experts here was certainly one of the most special moments.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of them. I would point out just a few of them. Our patent application in 1999 charted a course for every legal research company in the world. It contained innovations like sorting search results. Had never been done before. In 1999, you got results back on the two principal services, highest court first, most recent case to the oldest case. Things like using citation analysis to rank search results, using data visualization. These were all things that we sort of knew at the beginning. And over 20 years now, we've always said we were going to drag, kicking and screaming, the rest of the market to do research the way we were, whether it's data visualization or mobile apps or sorting search results in novel ways. Like, we really are doing that. And it's not, it's something we do every day. With the analytics products we're doing right now, with Docket Alarm and with the Fastcase Legal Research Platform, I mean, this is the way people are going to be doing research on every platform for the next 10 years.
I have to say, one of the big moments was when Michael Sander and Docket Alarm agreed to join us, and that was such a triumphant moment because we knew that would be the key to so much of what we want to do in the future. And another companion moment was at Legal Week when Docket Alarm won the Most Innovative Product Judges Award. That was a special very special recent moment.
Yeah, I mean, as a company over the last 20 years, you've clearly the industry's changed a lot, but you've moved in different directions as well, and not just the acquisition of Docket Alarm and all of that, but getting into publishing, now getting into the news business to some extent. In full disclosure, I guess I'm on your advisory board for this new news thing that you're starting up. But
yes, for
Law Street
talk
Media.
about
where why it is you've moved in these different directions and where you're heading with these.
Well, let me just say a word about this. There's an interesting market opportunity right now. The parent companies of large legal research companies, I think, are demanding too much of them. This is just my opinion, but this is how I see the market. I think Thomson Reuters and Reed Elsevier are trying to extract too much money out of Westlaw and LexisNexis. They can't really grow the top line, and so they have to cut costs. And when they cut costs to sort of meet the demands of the parent companies, I think they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I think they're having to overcorrect. And so they're divesting from divisions like publishing, for example, or legal news in West's case. And that creates a really interesting market opportunity for a company like us. We can come in and say that's an overcorrection, that's an overreaction. Print is obviously not dead. Editorial is obviously not dead. There's a role for high-quality legal news. There is a role for high-quality editorial treatises. And I think that's a void that we can very effectively fill. Not always, but at this scale, now that we're 900,000 lawyers plus, now that lawyers run 1 million searches a week on Fastcase, it affords us a kind of scale where we can do print publishing, where we can do analytics. Like I think most lawyers in America, a plurality of lawyers in America, will use analytics for the first time on Fastcase. And so I think that as the market overcorrects, as traditional publishers have to scale back from their ambitions, it will create interesting market opportunities for us to grow and to scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And, we realize that the whole universe is not just primary law legal research.
Right.
And so one of the really exciting things over the last couple of years is rounding it out, like Ed said, with so many other resources, whether it be the Hein Law Reviews and a wonderful partnership there, or public records with TransUnion, the news effort we're doing, just to have expert witness, just to have all the different pieces so that this can be more full service, and then bring analytics to all of that. Of course, docket alarm. And so one of the initiatives has been to go beyond just regular primary law, and the other initiative is to really focus on data-driven law, because we think that's the future. And it's docket analytics, it's analytics on Fastcase, it's all the ways you can tie it together, and so we're really excited about what that can look like.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard from law libraries and law firms and friends who do this is they always worry every time there's a new category. And I think the big category right now is analytics.
Right.
They worry that it's going to be another opportunity for commercial publishers to gouge them.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of at a scale where we can say we're going to do it at a very high level, in some cases a higher level than traditional publishers, and democratize it.
Yeah.
So it'll be a great solution for giant law firms because it's very powerful. But law schools can use it, solo practitioners can use it, small law firms can use it, everybody can use it. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And
looking at your core product, is there anything that really frustrates you about it? That is there something, do you see a shortcoming in it? Is there something that drives you crazy about it still? What's wrong with it that hasn't been fixed yet?
That's an easy answer. And a big itch we're trying to scratch right now is we want to improve our citator. And we're in the middle of a large effort to really bolster. Our citator is called Bad Law Bot, and it's an algorithmic citator. What frustrates me is that it's always compared to, kind of the traditional citators as if they are the gold standard. There's very good documentation that the traditional citators have mistagged citations about 30% of the time.
Yeah.
So we're working right now on a couple of ambitious projects to make our citator demonstrably better than even the traditional editorial citators. And I think that's a big area of focus for us. Watch in the next maybe year or so, we'll be rolling out updates to Bad Law Bot and to our citator to make it the best in the world. And I don't say that in a bravado way. I think it is very possible to make an algorithmic citator using machine learning around citations that will be more accurate and more up to date than any editorial citator there is.
Yeah. So, I have to ask the question, 20 years in, where are you going to be in 20 years from now? Where is Fastcase going to be, and where's the whole legal, where do you see the legal research industry, if you want to call it that, going?
You first, Phil.
Oh my gosh, 20.
The rocket scientist always gets the hard question.
Really.
Answer it for a year from now, for that matter, right?
It's going, well, the beautiful thing is it's focusing more and more on the technology side. And actually, what we think about here at AALL, how it's more and where people can build customized tools. It's going to be less out-of-the-box software. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful software out there, but especially in the large firm market, we're seeing people needing to customize things. And I think we're going to see that where with AI, with new technologies, things will look so different in 20 years. And that's where this group at AALL will have a lot of fun being able to lead the way and build all those tools. In 20 years, I will be somewhere in my 70s. Maybe I should be on a beach. I don't know where.
Yeah. I mean, where do you see the company? Where do you envision this company? What's the growth trajectory for this company?
I think we're going to break through. I mean, I really do think that You might still have like 2 or 3 major publishers 20 years from now, but Fastcase absolutely is going to be one of them. Yeah. And what I would love to see...
Maybe under a different name, but still...
right, maybe we'll remember what the good name is. But I do really think that if you look at the history of this kind of information, whether it's the GIS mapping information or law or anything else, what you end up with is a gigantic free tier with services on top of it, and then a bunch of retail services. And I think over time, we've really proven our ability to build beautiful, elegant, awesome products. So we'll be a very popular one of those. And we're going to be a big part of making the underlying law available to a whole new generation of innovators. That's really important to us. If you look at innovators right now, it is kind of, as we've said, a golden age of legal research innovation, fueled in part by the availability of public law. And we are going to continue to push that. We'll create new competitors to Fastcase by making the law more public, and everyone's going to be better off.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, 20 years in, that you deserve a lot of credit for all you've done to push the democratization of law, and yet for 20 years, we've still got a long ways to go on it.
Right. We're still in litigation over it.
Yeah, you're still in litigation over it.
If you had told me in 1999 that we would be in a lawsuit.
And we've got the Supreme Court about to hear.
Yes. But in addition, so there's the Georgia versus publicresource.org case, which is in the U.S. Supreme Court. But, we're litigating all the time to try to, make sure that everyone knows that private publishers can own public law. And I really do think the tide is turning our way.
Yep. Give you each last word as we need to wrap up here. But Phil, Ed?
I just want to say thank you, really, to all the folks who have supported us over the 20 years. Our amazing team over the 20 years, the folks here at AALL, all the other people that we've worked with, our wonderful supporters. We would never have gotten here without a lot of fantastic people working with us, and we just can't say thank you enough.
Yeah. Ed?
I think 20 years is going to be a very interesting milestone. Maybe this podcast will be the thing that memorializes it. This really is that breakout moment for Fastcase. For 20 years, we've pushed very, very hard, but we've never gotten traction the way that we are right now. Our fastest growing segment is like AmLaw 250 law firms. The adoption rate among small firms and solo practitioners has never been higher. People are using Fastcase like crazy, which is amazing. And this is really a very special moment. I've loved all of our history, but there is something really magical going on at our 20th anniversary right now.
Well, on that note, I think that's a good point to stop. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. Looks like we've reached the end of the road for our On the Road episode here at the Legal Talk Network. This is Bob Ambrogi. Big thanks to Ed Walters and Phil Rosenthal for joining us today on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of Fastcase. For our listeners, if our listeners have questions or wish to follow up with you, how can they reach you?
Phil@fastcase.com is my email address, and would love to talk to all of you.
And you can always find my nerdery around baseball, whiskey, space exploration, robots, and legal research on Twitter at EJ Walters.
Thanks a lot to all the listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app. This is Bob Ambrogi. Until next time, thanks for listening. Well, that was it for my conversation with Ed Walters and Phil Rosenthal, the founders of Fastcase. Thanks again to the Legal Talk Network for collaborating with me in producing that episode. Thanks also to the sponsor who keeps this show running, MyCase. With thousands of customers, it is a trusted practice management solution helping lawyers across the country run organized, efficient, and successful law firms. You can try MyCase for free today at mycase.com. That's mycase.com. Thanks, as always, to Ben Ambrogi for doing all the hard work around here of producing and editing the show. That's it for this week. This is Bob Ambrogi.